Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Today's video, we're going to be making a small metal and wood desk. A couple years ago, I had made something very similar to this, and I called it a computer desk. What we're going to be doing here is this is going to be 1.5 inch square tube for the metal frame, 0.63 wall thickness, which is about 1/16 of an inch thick. And then I've got a butcher block for the top. Now these butcher blocks are pretty common. I got this one in my local wood supply store, and I see them all over the place. Pretty inexpensive, and it makes for a really nice desktop. And then some wood inserts on some lower shelves. Now I have a drawing here that I've constructed. I'll show you guys what that looks like, and hopefully you got a better idea of what it is we're going to be doing. So let me get you that drawing, and we'll take a look at this project. Today's video is sponsored by King Metals. They've got all your fabrication needs in one location. From hinges to hardware, balusters to metal decor, brass to aluminum, and a whole lot more. You name it, they've got it. Check them out today at kingmetals.com. Now let's get back to today's video. All right, so here's the drawing right here. Now, sometimes you got to look very careful at these things. The three-dimensional look sometimes throws you off a little bit, but hopefully you get the idea here. Basically, we've got the shaded area here represents the wood top that's going to be going on the top, and also wood inserts on the lower part here for some shelves that are going to be close to the ground. The overall length of this desk is actually going to be 72 inches, which is 6 feet. My drawing for my metal frame here, I'm holding it 1 inch short on either side. I want to have a little bit of a lip front and back. And then the overall width of the desk is actually going to be 27 inches. I'm going 25 inches. I want that inch overhang. This desk is going to be going up against the wall. And then we've got some base molding here at the baseboard at the bottom of the wall that protrudes out about 3/4 of an inch. This will allow the desk to get up against the wall, and the legs aren't going to interfere with that. And so basically that's what it's going to look like here. I hope, and I've got some dimensions here showing you the final cut of the metal frame that we're going to be working with. And hopefully that is a better explanation of what we're going to be doing. You can see that this opening right here is where the chair is going to be going in, and the surface on the top here. So, all right, let's get started on this project. All right, so here we go. We're getting started, and the first thing I want to do is to cut most of the material to dimension, and there's a lot of cutting that goes on here. One thing I want to note that on that drawing that you just looked at, there were a couple of modifications that came after the fact. The client added another additional shelf to one side of that desk, so I'll be adding some additional supports to that. You'll see that, and we will talk about that a little bit later on in this video. Meanwhile, a lot of cuts have to happen right here to get all the material prepared and cut. Everything is cut on a 45. I'm mitering all the corners, at least as many as I can. And then it is time for the assembly. And the first thing I want to do is just get the table dogs in place, get everything nice and square. And you can see that comes together really nice. I tell you, a fabrication table like this makes a job like this so much easier than the way I used to do it with just that small welding table in the background you see there. That was my welding table. All right, I clamp everything in place. Everything's nice and square. Double check for square right here, and it's right on the money, and I'm ready to go. Firing up the HDP Revolution 2500, and we are going to be my wire here of choices, 35 thousandths. The gas is 90-10, 90% argon, 10% CO2. And wire feed, it varies for different machines. I'm running about 250, 260 inches a minute here. And that seems to be the go-to for this 0.63, this thinner wall material. So most of the things I'm doing here is just tacking everything into place. And once I got that done, it is time to get the legs cut here. And the legs are going to be square. And this is going to be interesting because in the past, I've always had a lot of trouble getting the legs nice and square. They always want to, when you weld them, you draw them in tight.
they always have a tendency to want to move around on you. And so I've got a different approach. We'll take a look at that here in just a minute.
Okay, for those of you who are wondering why I have this PVC here on the blade of my bandsaw, I think it's for obvious reasons. It's a safety feature to keep me or anyone else from cutting themselves. And let me tell you how this came about. Right behind you on the wall is my 55-inch TV that I watch sports from regularly out here in my shop, TV programs or whatever it may be. And many times to watch that, I'm doing what I'm doing right here. And that is resting my arm on this table and leaning up and watching the TV. Now, if you guys haven't noticed, the switch for this is on the ground, down by my foot here. One day, I was watching some TV, I had my arm right here, and it was then when I accidentally stepped on the switch and realized I was that close from slicing my arm wide open. So that is why I have this protector on the Portaband.
Yes, indeed. That was a close call, and that scared me to death, man. That was really close to doing some serious damage. But nevertheless, these are the end caps that I'm going to be putting on the legs right here. I'm going to be welding those on all the way around, and then that's going to be the pads for the bottom of the legs. Pretty simple procedure here. I just cut 1.5 inch square. This is 1/8 inch for the pads. I just weld them all the way around. And I do that the same on all 4 of them. A little bit of a mistake there. You see that? I was holding that in there, and I actually got a gap on that one right there, and I went ahead and tacked it, and that gap is no good. This needs to be flush to the bottom of that. That's going to make these legs perfectly flat, so I went ahead and cut that off. I'm just going to redo it right here, and I'm happy with that. All right, once you got all that done, it's time to just grind the welds here and make everything nice and smooth. And I like to do that with everything as much as I can anyway. It just makes for a better looking project. I've had a lot of people comment about how, well, you're cutting the weld off and those things are going to come off. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. I've never had one come off. I've never had any issues. Never had any callbacks. So it seems to work for me, and I'm just going to continue to move forward with it. You can see that just makes for a better product right there. Nice and clean, especially after it's painted or powder coated. All right, so here's what I was talking about. So I'm using these mega squares from Fireball Tools. I've had these for a long time now. Jason makes a great product up there. And here's a good way. This is the first time I've actually tried it like this. It's a little bit of work, but you can see with the mega squares, they've got that 45 away from the very joint right there. This allows you to get in and get a tack on the inside, where other squares, you're up tight against it. You know, so it seemed to work pretty good. And it's a little bit of setup for each one, but as you can see, but the end result is they're perfect. They stay nice and square, nice and straight. Now, I got 6 legs going on here, so it's important that they all are square and straight. And of course, everything is just tacked together at this point. I'm going to tack everything together in this whole frame, just in case there's adjustments. One thing you don't want to do, and I learned it the hard way, is by welding everything completely out as you go along. Man, that's a bad thing. For me, at least, it was a lot of deflection. Things moved around. I couldn't straighten anything out. In case there's a little bit of an error somewhere here, by tacking things, and if you've got to make an adjustment, it's much easier to do that. And once everything is all tacked together, then it's time to start welding everything completely out. So you can see I'm moving along right here. This is getting down to the end with the table legs right here. And then this will be the support. And this is what I did for the support. It's roughly, this is 4x4 blocks or 3.5 by 3.5, whatever they are, finished. And I got them evenly, and I'm just using those as supports, and that's what I'm going to do to go all the way around. I decided that's the distance that I want these supports to be. Just makes it easier. And the same thing with the sides right here. And like I said, just tacking them in place so they're not going anywhere in case I've got to make an adjustment. And this will complete the bottom part of this all the way around. And just a couple of tacks on the front side right here, and then everything is held together. Now this is what I was talking about here. I added a couple supports to the back here that wasn't on the drawing originally. The client wanted to add an additional shelf to one side of the desk, and so I thought this would be a good opportunity to just add a couple more supports. I needed the one on the one side for sure, and then just to balance it out, I put the other one on the other side. And this will be the intermediate shelving brace, or support, I should say. You know, it's important to keep everything nice and level. Later, there's wood that's going to be going in here, and you just want everything to be nice and level. And like I said, by tacking everything, in case you got to bump things around, it's much easier to do that. All right, well, there it is. I'm pretty happy with that. And so now comes the process of welding everything out. Now, a couple things I want to point out. You know, I'm trying to eliminate as much deflection as possible. So, because you're going to get it. Once you add heat to metal like this and welding, things are going to move around. So you can see I'm jumping around. I'm moving from one side to the other side. I'm not welding all the joints. I'm just doing one at a time and moving all around to help reduce that deflection or warpage as much as possible. You know, I added up to some. Here's a little side note. I added up the welds here. There's over 100 welds on this little desk right here, believe it or not. You'd never think that, but there is. And that's a bunch. And I can guarantee you, I've mentioned this before in my other videos, just when you think you've got them all done, there's always one or two that you miss, and you're going to find them later. So this is just something that that you just have to be sure that you have everything. I mean, you can always come back and get it later, but it's different. One time I had completed a project like this, take it to the powder coater, thought I had everything completely done. When it came back, there was 2 welds that I missed. And now it's powder coated. Now it's a problem. So, you know, this is important to just double check and be sure you take the time to you got everything completely welded before it goes to paint or powder coat. So you can see me still jumping around here, trying to reduce the amount of deflection or warpage as much as possible. Now, it doesn't help. You know, it doesn't completely 100%. Stop that from happening. There was a little bit. I had a little bit on the very top, but nothing that was going to be of any importance. The butcher block top that's going to go on here will suck down nice and tight to it. It wasn't much. It was maybe 1/8 of an inch, so that's much better than you know it could have been if you just weld everything all together at the same time. Took a little bit of time, but I eventually got it. All right, with all the welding done, it's time to just grind some of these welds down. The visible ones, this will be the ones on the outside and the top, the ones that are going to be seen, or the ones I have access to grinding. I'm having a little bit hard time right here. You can see this flap disc right here. I've used this thing down. I've actually trimmed it down to the first trimmable mark. I think I've exhausted that flap disc. It's a brand new fresh one on here, and what a difference, boy. I tell you, when you get a new wheel on there, this thing just plows through the material. It's always nice, but I get a lot of use out of these trimmable flap discs. And you can see what I mean. It's just these welds on the outside, the ones that are going to be visible, the ones you're going to see, and that's the ones that you want to clean up. You know, it just makes for a cleaner looking project. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get the interior joint ones, but that's okay. As long as the outside is nice and smooth and clean, it just gives a good looking product. All right, so got all the grinding down, and these are just tabs that I'm putting on, and this is what's going to hold the countertop on the desktop, I should say. Now, I don't know. In hindsight, maybe a little bit different. Just letting you know, this worked just fine. I think I put like 8 of them on here all the way around. and it worked fine, but maybe a better way of doing it would have been some angle iron, maybe in 4 locations across the top, a little bit more rigidity. You know, there was a little bit of flexibility in these tabs right here. I noticed when I had put the top on and I was lifting it around, I noticed it a little bit of flexibility. It's not going to be a big deal. This is going to work fine because it's a desk. It's just going to sit flat and it's all good. But if I were to do it differently, I think I would probably put up maybe 4 pieces of angle iron, 1 on either end, and maybe a couple supports in the middle right there. But I was trying to watch the weight on this table. You know, this is 063. To this point right here, it's fairly lightweight. It's pretty lightweight. And, you know, the countertop's the heaviest thing, obviously. And I was just trying to keep it as light as possible. The last one I made just a few years ago, I used a little bit heavier material. And, man, that desk was about 400 pounds. This one here, I'm trying to get it a little bit lighter. I think there's no need to have a heavy material in this. This is going to do just fine. All right, I got those tabs welded on, and I'm just obviously getting the grinding down, get the surface nice and flat to accept that countertop or desktop. Countertop, desktop, butcher block, whatever. It's all of those things, I guess. All right, so these are the supports for the shelving that's going on. I've got 2 shelves on one side, 1 shelf on the other side. Now this is 3/4 inch angle iron. The wood I'm going to be using is 5/8 Baltic birch plywood. That is the selection I'm going to use for the shelves on the inside. And you can see I've got a small piece of that, and what I'm doing is I'm just going around and be sure that is flush to the frame on the inside. So when I put the wood in there, it is nice and flat and flush. And I've pre-drilled some screw holes you might see in the angle iron right there. Those are I'm going to use small wood screws to attach the shelf to that. Just double checking all the way around. Sometimes they move around a little bit, and it is important to keep it nice and flush, because that's the goal, is to have it looking nice and flush. All right, with all the metal parts complete, it's off to the powder coaters it goes, and now it is time to get the shelving done and prepared. And so here's these 5 foot by 5 foot Baltic birch plywood, 5/8 of an inch thick. Don't ask me why I use this. It just looked like it had some decent grain to it, you know, and I just thought this is what I was going to use. Now I don't have a big table saw, so this is the way I do things. I just got a little straight edge right here, and I've clamped things down. It's the way I've done it forever. Yeah, it seems to work pretty good. It takes a little bit of time to get everything just right, but once you get it just right, as long as you push the saw up against the edge of that straight edge, you get a nice straight cut. And out of this 5x5 sheet, this is the only piece I really need, so I'm going to have quite a bit left over for another project of some kind. I'm just vacuuming up the plywood right here, and you know, otherwise the dust just gets all over the place, so I try to minimize it by just you know, vacuum up as much as I can. Little sanding block to get those sharp burrs off the edge there from the saw. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but a little clip back, I know you didn't see it because I didn't even see it. But when I was vacuuming the sawdust off the table there, I actually sucked my pencil into the vacuum cleaner. You know, that's the kind of things happen, I guess. All right, there's all 3 of these shelves. They're all cut. And, of course, I've got to fish my pencil now out of the vacuum. There it is. All right, so I've got a little quarter rounding over bit right here, and I'm going to round this over on one side of the shelf. It's just going to make for a nice clean edge. This is the edge that's going to be up. I'm not going to worry about the bottom side of the edge. I'm just going to get these 3 all the way around, and then a little sanding block to clean everything up like this, and it's nice and smooth, and everything is good to go. And I do the same to all 3 of those. All right, well, all three of those out of the way. Got a little moving blanket right here, and here comes the butcher block countertop. It comes wrapped in plastic. Again, I think this is 27 inches by 6 feet long. I think must be a standard size. They also have them in 8 feet long, but this 6 foot long piece is what I went with. Now they are super finished and super smooth. I mean, literally ready to go at this point right here to a certain degree, but that edge right there is razor blade sharp. And I'm going to take this quarter rounding over bit, and I'm going to get both sides of this all the way around and just kind of take that sharp edge off. I mean, it is definitely sharp. And in terms of the sanding and the finishing of the product, it's pretty close. But I went ahead and got in there with some like 320 grit and made a glass type finish to accept the stain. And then here it is, the back side. You can see that sharp edge right there. Palm router right here with that quarter rounding over bit. It does a really good job with that. All right, and this is what I was talking about. So just taking this this sander right here, and I've got 320 grit on here, and I'm just going over everything. And you could probably go up more, but higher grit, but this 320 made it like glass finish, and that's all you really need, I think. I've had a couple people tell me that if you go up past 400, it doesn't make any difference on wood. Well, I stayed with that, and it's nice and smooth and flat. All right, so now it's time to get the stain in here. A little bit with this stain. This is a water-based stain. Now, I'm not a fan of this. This is the first time I've really used this, and the reason why is because I gave the client a bunch of colors to choose from. This is the color she chose. This one happened to be water-based stain. What I don't like about it is it dries really fast, and it is hard to wipe the excess stain off and keep it consistent. And that's what I learned right there. That was the first thing. So, and what I'm concerned about is these are the small pieces. What happens when I get to the countertop, to the desktop? How's that going to be? Well, we're going to find out here in a minute. So I tried to be a little bit quicker with this, you can see, and wipe it off as quickly as I can and try to maintain a pattern. And you can almost see, look at how fast it's drying. The one on the left, I just did it, and now you got this one right here, and you can see the work I'm having to put in just to get it consistent. The one on the left is already drying. It's already dried. Now, if you're using oil-based stain, I mean, you got some time. I mean, it might be a couple hours before that stain is completely dried. There it is. Well, I got them all. I got all three of those done, and here we go. Man, I'm telling you, I was a little nervous. I was trying to go as fast as I can on this right here, knowing that this dries super fast, and I'm going to have a lot of work to rub this stain off before it dries in. And it's just, I knew I might get in a little bit of trouble right here, but I know the camera's fast forward, but man, I'm telling you, I was moving very quickly right here to make this happen. And once I knew I got everything down, I jumped right in right away with a couple of rags and started wiping. And you can see that it's already dried. And so look at how hard it is for me to get that excess stain off. I am literally scrubbing super hard to get that off. Water-based stain, I'm not a fan of it. I'm never going to use that again. I ultimately got it though. It worked out pretty good. All right, and then I'm coming back with some oil-based polyurethane semi-gloss. Now, I did talk to the person at the paint store. I said, listen, I got water-based stain. Is it any problem putting oil-based over top of water-based? They said no problem at all. So that's what I'm going with. And you can see here, I like working with this much better. You've got time with it. And it just gives a which I think is a better finish product right here. And there's different ways of applying it. I'm just using this 4-inch really smooth type of paintbrush. One thing you got to watch out for is you might have a bristle or two that may come off. So, you know, when you're done staining something like this, just be sure that your surface is clean and you don't have any bristles that might have got caught up in the surface there. All right, here we go for the top here. Now I'm using like a foam brush for the sides right here, and I kind of wanted to get those out of the way first. Again, you know, moving, even though this is oil, I noticed that you know, it kind of starts to get a little tacky after a couple of, I'm going to say 5 minutes. That polyurethane is you know, starts to get a little tacky. But anyways, that's why I wanted to get those sides out of the way first as much as I can, and then applying this stuff liberally. You can see I'm putting a nice thick coat on. This is what I want. I want a nice durable top to this, and durable finish to the top. And once I got everything done, I just you know, go around the edges. Make sure you got a nice even stroke across the top, a nice finish. And then cleaning up the edges right here for any drips that may have came down the side. All right, so there it is just after I did it. Now it looks a little glossy because it is wet, but when it dried, it looked just right. All right, back from the powder coaters, and you can see the countertop or desktop on there, and time to attach this in. And I'm just pre-drilling some holes. Be careful you don't drill down through there. That would be horrible to go through the other end. But I just went, you know, about an inch in or so, and then vacuum everything and attaching these wood screws, and that's what's going to hold the top on. All right, and then for the intermediate shelves, they fit right in perfectly, and I've got some small little wood screws right here that I'm going to fasten them in through the holes, pre-drilled. I got 2 in each side of the angle iron right there. All right, this is the very last one, down to the last couple screws right here. And there it is, all complete. This was a fun little project. Turned out really nice. I'm really excited about it. The client was really happy. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.